Hi, I'm Brenda Reiss, Certified Radical Forgiveness Master Coach. And I'm coming to you today for just a little explanation of what radical forgiveness is. And I wanted to start off with that there are three types of forgiveness. There is traditional forgiveness, there's extraordinary forgiveness, then there's radical forgiveness. And before I go into those, what I want to share with you, that radical forgiveness is about a change of perception and a shift in our energy. It's about looking at things a little bit differently than what we have been. That's therefore the shift in perception. And what that does is it doesn't take belief, and it doesn't take that you are totally all in on this idea. What I ask of you is to be willing, and sometimes we have to be willing, that maybe we could look at it a little bit differently. So some of you I know are ready for that. And some you might be a little skeptical, and that's okay too. I encourage you to be skeptical. Now, I want to go through why is it important to forgive? Because victim land is not where we really want to be. And a lot of us spend our life in victim, to be honest. We're blaming other people for our problems. There's always shame and guilt. And what we don't want to do is give our power away to other people, and that's what ends up happening. So we want to basically start forgiving for selfish reasons. We want to start forgiving for ourselves, really, because all in all, the secret is all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. I know that's a big deal, and we'll go through that. But right now, hang in there with me. Now, the three forms of forgiveness that I just mentioned, the traditional, the extraordinary, and the radical, are basically the traditional forgiveness. Now, traditional forgiveness has been letting bygones be bygones. We figure something wrong happened, and it happened to us, right? Life is happening to me, and you owe me an apology first. That's a big one. Now, the problem with traditional forgiveness is like scale. It's like we have these two different energies going on at the same time. One is the need to condemn, which is the blame, shame, and guilt. And the other is the desire to forgive, right? We know we want to move on and we don't want to feel hurt, but we don't know what to do about it. And so this is the one that houses compassion, tolerance, and humility. That's where we all want to be. But most of the time, what happens is that even though we want to forgive, the need to condemn wins out because life is happening to me. Okay? That's what happens in traditional forgiveness because we don't know any other way. And so then we have the extraordinary forgiveness. Now, extraordinary forgiveness is, we hear more of it today. We're hearing more and more about forgiveness, which is beautiful. But a lot of people think, well, they can do it and I can't, especially when it's on TV, right? When we get the people that go through massacres and they go through different things that are happening now, and the parents of children who have been hurt say that they've forgiven the person who did it. And a lot of us go, well, great, she can do it, but I can't. And we see more and more of that. And then we feel guilty about it because, well, why can they forgive and I can't when I'm still holding on to this pain about my ex-husband or ex-wife or girlfriend or boyfriend? And so it gets to be almost painful. So then we just kind of shut it out. And that's not where we want to live either. And so radical forgiveness, on the other hand, there's some benefits to it. It happens in minutes and hours versus days and weeks. It's simple to do. There are tools to guide you. So we don't just have to let it go. Has anybody ever heard that? Could you just let it go? And then there's no belief required. It's okay to be skeptical, like I talked about in the beginning. No skills. There isn't any therapy. No need to be vegetarian, right? And are you excited? I am. Because I love this work. Now, forgiveness work, this forgiveness work, there's 5 stages. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through those 5 stages. Now, the first stage is where you get to tell the story, the victim story. And we encourage you to talk about what happened to you. This is important to do. This is my story. And the reason why that I go through that with people is because it needs to be witnessed and validated. If I'm not heard, if I'm not witnessed and validated, then the story sits inside me, and I don't want that. The second stage is where you get to feel the feelings. This is the hardest stage for people to do. And even though as people, and especially women, we kind of go, well, yeah, I cry at commercials and I cry at weddings and I'm emotional, so I get my emotions out, or I get angry very rarely. Most of the time, and especially men, they're not taught how to cry or taught how to think, am I sad? Am I annoyed? Am I resentful? What is that? Most people can't put a name to it because we're not encouraged, at least the generations growing up until now. I watch it with my grandchildren today, and my children encourage their children, and they talk about emotions. I didn't grow up that way. I don't know about you, but I learned to stuff the anger. I stuffed the feelings because it wasn't right. And so now I know that it is right. Now, the third stage is collapsing the story. This is where traditional forgiveness ends and radical forgiveness begins. Collapsing the story is where we get to kind of use like a juicer, and we get to separate the fact from the interpretation, like the rind from the juice. And so this is where we really get down to the story part, where we can connect the dots and we can get the ahas. And this is where we can go, oh, that's why. And then we can bring in what we talked about on the other page about the compassion and humility. Because if we jump too quickly to that and not feel the feelings and not look at what happened to us and honor that, then it's going to sit inside us and it's going to blow up like a volcano at the most inopportune times. And then the fourth stage is where we are reframing. Now, the reframe, before I do that, I want to kind of talk about on the collapsing, where this tapestry right here that you've been seeing. So this is my drawing of a tapestry, if you know what a tapestry is. Some people these days do not. But the tapestry is a beautiful, hand-stitched design. But on the back of the tapestry is our life. This is our life, right? We have random events. We have life's a bitch and then you die. We've got things happening to me, not for me. It's ugly, it's chaotic, messy, it makes no sense. It's out of balance, there's no meaning. This is our life. And included in that are abuse, betrayals, right? Bankruptcies, divorces, abandonments. My life is a mess, right? That's the back of a tapestry. And that's what we do with the collapsing of the story, is we take the back of this and we make sense about it. Because in these are nuggets. There's gold in here. There's gold in these things. Why did they happen? Did they happen for a reason? Maybe so. And so it's really important to understand that in the radical forgiveness philosophy, like in a lot of spiritual philosophies, they say life happens for a reason. Things happen for a reason. Now, sometimes we don't have control over what it is that happened to us, but we sure do have control over how we handle it, what we learn from it, and how we can move forward. And that leads us, to the reframe part, because on the other side of this, the back side of the tapestry, then we can find the beautiful picture of what our life is meant to be. And that's the shift of perception, is when I can take the things that have happened to me, which is quite a bit, and I can turn around and go, okay, this is why it happened, and this is where it got me today. And that's hard. That's really kind of challenging for a lot of people to go through. So in spite of how awful a situation seemed at the time, there was a spiritual purpose in it. And then when we can see that our soul wanted that experience. Now, humanly, it might have sucked. But spiritually, there's a bigger purpose. And that when we see it, that events don't happen to us, they happen for us, it changes. And what it did for me was it changed my whole being. It changed how I went from victim to victor in my life. And I saw that really nothing wrong happened. And so if I look at it that way, that nothing wrong happened, then is there anything to forgive? Probably not. However, it takes a while to get there, and that's a big concept. And so that's what the tools are for. The tools are to help us get there. And that's what you're going to be going through. You're going to be going through some worksheets and a 13-step audio that's going to help you get there. Now remember, no belief required. So therefore, you can be skeptical as you want. And I would love to hear how you go through this process and answer any questions that you have. See you soon.